Hello and welcome to Hooting Mandrills. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Sam.
And today we're going to be talking about how standard is a horrible format and they don't care about us. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so I guess let's talk about the biggest thing, which is 3-year standard, which is kind of what causes all of these problems to begin with.
Standard's really huge.
And it almost doesn't matter, too, is the other thing.
Well... I think it does matter for a few. So, but let's just talk about how huge it is. So, 3-year standard, just you hear that, you know that standard used to be 2 years, and you think, oh, okay, so standard is 3/2 times as big, is 1.5 times as big as it used to be. And that will be true when Avatar comes out next month. Standard will be, at that point, 12 sets, Spider-Man's slightly smaller, Foundation's pretty significantly larger than the average set, so you can just assume that the set numbers are about right, and also, the number of actual constructed playables doesn't change that much, I kind of feel like, just based on the set size, because, only some proportion of that is uncommons and rares anyway. So, Standard will be 12 sets with Avatar. Standard will not rotate again until January of 2027, so there will be, between now and when it rotates, 7 more sets added to it. So 19 sets. So that means that it will be slightly more than 9/4 times the
amount of playable sets.
Yeah, and times the number of playable sets in, previous large standard or the, previous maximum size standard of 3-year rotation. 3/2 times the previous maximal size of 3-year rotation. Standard will, for the foreseeable future, be, more than twice as big as 2-year standard ever was all the time.
And it's clear that in playtesting, they can't figure out when stuff is broken. They don't have the time for it because they're churning out these universe beyond
and because
sets.
Standard is too big.
It's too big to know every card and
it's
too
have
big.
The playtesters. They have to test too far ahead, and when they do miss, that miss just carries over forever. They didn't think about Up the Beanstalk as a constructed card, and
it ruined standard for a long time.
The cascading consequences of that were going to continue until they banned it. They don't have playtesting in play design as a tool that they can rely on to curate the format. They have to fix it after the fact with bannings, and
they don't want to do that.
They seem to have a philosophy opposed to doing that.
Right. I mean, as much as they say we're willing to ban cards out of the Universes Beyond set, I think when they banned Corey Steelcutter and the other 6 cards, it was pretty clear that Vivi had to go. In my mind, it was clear that Vivi had to go. That card was just as good as Corey Steelcutter, probably better. And, it's just frustrating. And, we can talk about this more, but even once they ban Vivi, if they don't also ban Prosthetic Memory, the blue-red deck is still going to be the best deck in the format.
I mean, I think from Wizards' perspective, it's actively desirable if there's just an Izzet Profs deck that's Vivi-less Vivi that is a tier 1 or tier 2 deck, but
it's tier 0. I don't think, I still don't think that any deck is going to be competitive.
Because I haven't played Standard, and I've played a little bit since rotation, just trying to meme a little bit. I played a decent amount of Roots between the bans and rotation, but I haven't played a ton of Standard. You think that the Izzet Profs shell, cut the Vivi Cauldron combo angle out of it, it is still far and away the best deck in the format?
Maybe Mono Red can still beat it, that's always going to be the case.
Yeah, I think there will always be a way to target Mono Red to prey on a best deck in a format, and that is itself a sign of a kind of bad metagame, that the red decks get worse when they have to
deal with mid-range decks.
They have to deal with mid-range decks, and they have to deal with too many different things. That when it's just okay, I need to punish card draw and deal with big chunky boys, I'm going to
toss 4 Razorkin
Needleheads
in my main
deck. I'm going to toss some number of threaten effects into my sideboard, and I'm going to let it ride. If you have to deal with a wider array of different things, then red isn't as much of a problem. And if you have to, like you said, if you have to deal with black-based mid-range decks, then red isn't as much of a problem.
Right, and so the reason why black-based mid-range decks aren't playable right now is that removal is horrible in Standard. There's no good one-drop removal spell at all. sorcery speed is not good enough. They shouldn't even print kill spells at sorcery speed for anything other than draft. And then the other thing is also the Doom Blades are horrible. Shoot the Sheriff is not good enough. Half of the good cards in the format are outlaws. So I think really what they need to do is print Fatal Push and like a no downside Doom Blade into the format. And like,
is Fatal Push even good enough in Standard? How reliably
how do you turn it on? I don't know. Like, maybe it wouldn't be. Maybe cut down has to be the one.
Well, I mean, I think cut down leaving definitely seems to have been a tipping point for it. Cut down does hit Vivi if they just run it out on 3, and not that we think that is likely to be the
optimal play,
likely to be a defining card in Standard after November 10th, but that did seem to be a tipping point for the Vivi deck, that when they just run it out on 3, it's like, all right, removal check. You are being removal checked harder because your removal is worse. Cut down was at least an answer in that edge case that meant that you weren't just saying, I have to either take a turn off, this Vivi is 3 mana Time Walk, or I have to let them untap with Vivi and they're going to end that turn. Letting them untap with Vivi is worse than letting them untap with Ouroboros. People who talk about this stuff, about how the threats outpace answers in Standard, they're right, but there is a pretty significant categorical difference between letting someone untap with Ouroboros and letting them untap with Vivi. The Ouroboros gonna do a bunch of stuff, put a bunch of numbers in play, but it's gonna be something that you can catch back up from with a Wrath. The Vivi, they untap, the
game's over, yeah.
They're gonna draw 5 cards.
No. They'll draw more than that, and they'll have infinite mana across their whole board. I mean, yeah, I agree. Like, I don't know that Fatal Push would be good enough. Maybe you're right. They need to print a very powerful 1-drop instant speed. Like, I think that a -3/-3 at instant speed would be good enough for 1 mana. No additional text, just instant speed -3/-3. And there's other reasons why that's necessary, and we can talk about those too. But like, I think the last time Standard was like somewhat healthy was Mice versus Domain versus Midrange. And I guess that was like a year ago that was really the decks. And like, Rock, Paper, Scissors is the best we can hope for in Magic. 3 decks being good is crazy. Like, being playable and people wanting to play them, that's something we haven't had in a year, I don't think. So I think maybe, like, I've heard other people talking about Path to Exile being brought into Standard. I think that might be a decent choice as well.
I could get behind Path, honestly.
It's got a huge downside.
Yeah, using it on turn 1 or turn 2, you're not bolting the bird with Path to Exile.
You're birding the bird.
Path to Exile your Llanowar Elves. Thanks. I was really worried about my mana source dying, and now I don't have to be.
But at least it answers, like, big threats in an exile-y way.
Yeah, it does enough things that I could see Path to Exile being appropriate for Standard again. In part because Standard basically is just 2015 Modern now. It's this huge format that never rotates, and that has a lot of problems with 2 ships passing in the night.
They can't fix the turn 4 thing. Even if they ban 10 cards, the turn 4 thing still exists.
Also, I think I've mentioned this on the pod before, but like, the control players can get to articulate that, yeah, getting double wasted even on turn 3 and not being able to get your mana under you in Legacy is fundamentally antagonistic to the existence of control as a macro type. And they're right, but if the aggro players could read, they'd be very upset. Not being able to goldfish you on turn 3.5 does fundamentally undermine aggro as an archetype. They need to be able to do that, just you need to be able to interact with it.
Yeah, you need to be able to interact with it at 1 mana, at instant speed too. The other reason why instant speed is so necessary is that every other deck that comes into Standard is just a turn 4 combo win the game. Kona or Cavero. And so like, it's like we were saying about the 2015 Modern, you need to just like stack your sideboard with silver bullets that fix all these problems, or you just lose. Like, you can't do anything. You have to be able to completely destroy the graveyard. I think sorcery speed is honestly too slow. Like, I think that I play Strategic Betrayal, but like honestly, it's not really good enough to actually keep up with those decks. Like you can on turn 3 after they've Steamed Core Scholared away the whatever they want to reanimate to win the game with. You have one opportunity there, I guess, to Strategic Betrayal, and that's it. So like that's when that card is good and not at any other point. But yeah, I don't know. And then like the Kona thing, you can't use Strategic Betrayal against a Kona deck. You need to have many threats at instant speed that can deal with a 3 toughness creature. And it's just like if those are Shoot the Sheriff, then you're not good against any other deck. It's just like a horrible time, and like everything is bad about Standard. Like there's no mid-range because there's no good instant speed kill spells, and there's no like aggro exists, but it's kind of just like bad right now because you've banned all of the good aggro cards out of the format. So you can like play these aggro decks that are, you know, the mono red deck is obviously pretty good, but like it's mostly pretty good because it beats up VV, and like you can still play fast enough to keep up with the other turn 4 decks. It's just a coin flip at that point.
Yeah, VV is sort of it's a combo deck. It's also sort of a mid-range deck. What would you call a VV-less VV? Would you say that's a mid-range value deck? That's an aggro deck that's just a little bigger and trying to go more over the top than traditional red deck? What would you call that?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just like... Maybe it is an aggro deck, I guess. Like, it's kind of everything right now with VV, but VV-less, it's more like just an aggro deck that draws infinite cards. So, like, that's sort of a problem, right? Like, aggro decks aren't supposed to draw infinite cards, and this one does. But yeah, like, we've banned out aggro from the format except for the one mono red deck, which is, I guess, not banned out then, but, like, there's very little flexibility in aggro right now, and then every other deck is combo in the whole format. Every other deck is trying to combo win on turn 4, whether it's the Battle Crier, whether it's, you know, another deck that you need to be able to remove at instant speed things with 3 toughness. So that's sort of just like the way the format is right now, where it's just like every single and I'm no better, right? I'm mostly just playing a Jund combo deck with Biotech Specialist and Weapons Manufacturing. I can win on turn 4. It's not super likely. It's not really what I'm trying to do. But, you know, I have to put cards in my deck that I don't want to. I'd rather play artifacts so I can trigger my Weapons Manufacturing for my removal, but there's no artifacts I can really play. I have to play the Legion Extruders. That's a fine card. That's like just value anyway. But like no other removal-y type spells.
Legion Extruder does line up very poorly against all of this 3 toughness stuff that you need to kill at instant speed. Chainsaw is
lines up poorly.
Speed.
Yeah, I took out all the chainsaws. I just play a Braid and Strategic Betrayal. I play a couple of
I don't know.
Tithing Blades.
Like you said, you can't really slow Standard down enough. The cool synergistic sorcery speed removal that, you know, you can look back on a lot of our pods and have us like really coping and hoping would be good, but it just can't be. Standard is just structurally going to be this fast forever. Even if they went back to 2-year Standard, it might be.
They're also trying to sell cards, so power creep is going to happen. Like,
well, I mean, we aren't in an era of explicit power creep like we were, you know, during Fire Design, from War of the Spark through, you know, either Zendikar Rising or Kaldheim. Kaldheim only got a little bit of it, and I think that was mostly an oversight rather than explicit power creep.
But even when you're looking at cards that they're not going to ban, cards that just make the format miserable, like Screaming Nemesis, Enduring Curiosity.
Screaming Nemesis kind of chased me off of Pioneer, honestly. Not that it's necessarily too good or anything, but, you know, I wanted to be playing a mid-range deck in Gruul colors instead of black for once. I was interested in screwing around with Rydia, doing some cool value-y stuff, and it was working for me for a while. It, you know, got me to 666 Mythic, Horns Up, 1 month that I really ground with it. And, you part of the philosophy there is that Torch the Tower was kind of better than Fatal Push against most of the stuff you cared about killing in Pioneer. Against Heartfire Hero, it's better. Against Arclight Phoenix, it's much better. Against Greasefang, it's about the same. It is about as likely that you will have something to sacrifice to bargain as that you will be able to like pay with a treasure to Revolt, Fatal Push, a Greasefang to stop yourself from dying on turn 3. But boy oh boy, is it not better against Screaming Nemesis. And the red decks realized, oh, we can just put 4 of these in our decks in Pioneer, and not that my deck was
in the meta,
shaping the meta really, but if you have most of your other threats in that deck be encouraging people to play red removal, and then Screaming Nemesis is here, and for how a mid-range deck trying to deal with stuff with red removal, it might as well be Phyrexian Obliterator. It is
right.
You are not stabilizing when this thing comes down.
If you at all have to take 3 and then torch it, you can't ever take 6 damage off of this Screaming Nemesis. Like, that's just the game. So I get it. Yeah, the best ways of dealing with Screaming Nemesis are your own Screaming Nemesis, but then you have to be on a complete aggro path yourself. I play a lot of Screaming Nemesis. I play a lot of red. But, like, do I think that the card is kind of problematic, like, overall, like, as a design? A little bit. Like, I do think so. And like, Enduring Curiosity is also just horrific. Just like, oh, I've got all these stupid flyers. Well, they hit you, I draw a million cards, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like,
you wouldn't think you'd miss Aftermath when it was gone, but Blotout was kind of a big deal for being able to ever answer the card Enduring Curiosity or Kaido Bane of Nightmares profitably.
Right, it's just another card that has 3 toughness that you need to be able to remove. But except there's another caveat that you also need to exile it, because otherwise they still get to draw the cards. It's just like, how is Enduring Innocence? How is that card once a turn, but Curiosity is, oh, however many you deal damage, you can draw that many. Like, did anybody think about this? No. It's just like sort of the way it is. Like I said, like even if they ban 10 cards, it's still a 4-turn clock, 4-turn whatever. Ouroboros, another card you need to be able to instantly remove at 3 toughness. But
turn 4 format meme is just your life now, and like you should
accept the
perhaps
rules,
accept that. I'm not sure WotC has the spoilers for Avatar have started. There sure are a lot of 5-drops in it. They look cool.
Yeah,
but
it must be fun for Commander.
Would my boy Goldspan Dragon or Glorybringer be? I think they would.
Goldspan Dragon is kind of sick with Biotech Specialist. So if they print Goldspan Dragon into Standard, I will play it. Even if it costs 5 mana, I don't care. I can play 8 elves. I will. But anyway, sorry, I'm tangenting.
No, that's fine. But like there are a lot of these just value-y 5-drops that look cool, look like they should be fun in Standard. They would have been fun in Standard, a few years ago when the format was slower and cards like Goldspan Dragon or, Fable of the Mirror Breaker were defining cards in the format when it was mid-rangier. And like these cards would be better there. You got to play sometimes 1 or 2 of, is it Evelyn? The goofy 5-drop vampire from New Capenna. Some of the Grixis decks played that as 1 or 2 ofs at their top end.
Right, but the removal you had was that you could survive an extra turn or 2.
Removal was better, grinding was better, and it is just not a format that is hospitable to these cards anymore. The version of this that does see play is the 4-mana card that wins the game from in Superior Spider-Man.
Yeah, Cavero. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's just like the cards you're gonna end up seeing are these, like every deck is a combo deck in Standard now, every single one. Everything is Splinter Twin, like Vivi Cauldron, that's the Splinter Twin.
Actual Splinter Twin from 2015 might be a welcome addition to Standard if you only got to play that exact 75 and weren't giving the red deck Lightning Bolt also.
Yeah.
But like if someone just got to play combo control in this sea of other combo, that might make the format a little better. it. Combo control that folds to interaction, where the combo can be disrupted by interaction, would be a nice thing for the format, almost.
I mean, honestly, yeah. Like, I just don't like when you ban out aggro, which they've done. You know, the mono red deck exists. I've said it a million times. I understand that. But like when you ban out aggro, then what you're left with is combo. And so now all we have is combo. Are you guys happy that aggro is gone? You don't lose on turn 3. Now you lose every game on turn 4. So I don't know. I just think that the bans aren't going to fix standard either. I'm pretty negative about it.
Suppose they do ban another 7 cards. What, 3 months? 4 after? I feel like 3 because that is how the ban windows are supposed to work. But 3 months after they just banned 7 cards. Yeah, that sounds right. It was like July or August that I think it was August. It's going to be November. So yeah, 3 months. So 3 months after they ban 7 cards, they ban another 7. If standard isn't fixed by this, are they going to ban another 7 in 3 months? Is that going to
fix the problem?
And is that going to be the environment that they said they wanted? You know, comments about digital formats from last week notwithstanding, I think they do genuinely believe they are creating more consumer confidence by doing this, or at least did for a long time, but it doesn't seem to work that way in practice. Everyone who is...
But the RCQs have all dropped out. Nobody is participating anymore, and nobody wants to buy the VVs that they know are getting banned to compete in one tournament, you know?
You know, the same thing happened with Nadu and Modern. Legacy tournament attendance Eternal Weekend attendance dipped this year because Legacy still feels like it's a full ban cycle behind. They seem to be committed to a number of things that are not mutually coherent. That, you know, standard should not rotate and we should ban only at scheduled windows for the sake of consumer confidence don't seem to jive because standard is too big to realistically test ahead of time. It's not just going to be a few misses or a few things. It's as a consequence of Magic designers doing mostly a good job creating interesting, cool cards that a variety of people will be interested in and trying to make good limited environments. They're going to miss. There's just too much volume and too far ahead they have to test. They cannot preemptively solve this in play design. The only tool they really have is format curation after the fact,
which they don't want to do.
At every 3 months is clearly too slow, and a lot of times they feel after 3 months of negative media that they have to do more to look busy. I understand. I am an apologist for Grief. I'm sure he's not fun. I kind of like Scam Mirrors, but Grief was not a major player in Modern when they banned him. They banned him to look busy. The Pixie decks were not a major player in Standard when they banned Hopeless Nightmare in this town. They banned them because they're annoying and to look busy and because they thought maybe that was going to be a good deck when
everything else fell
out, and never mind VV Cauldron.
I think that this town is a little different. I mean, we don't have to get super into the specifics, but this town is playable in a lot of decks. Yeah, that's not just a Pixie card. Like, it's very good in Pixie.
I'm not even saying it was wrong to ban Grief in Modern. I think Modern players are happier with that.
Yeah, so like even if you ban 7 more cards right now,
if it's 7 cards every 3 months, is that creating consumer confidence? So I think you either need to significantly constrict standard down to back to 2-year standard, even 1-year standard.
With 7 sets, it's crazy.
That used to be a full standard. That used to be the biggest standard has ever got, just what's being released into standard next year.
Well, when the Universes Beyond cards were like going straight to Commander or like Commander Modern, whatever, you know, like then things were a little different, right? Like they could do 7 sets in a year with Assassin's Creed and all this stuff, but it doesn't ruin standard. Like maybe 1 card is playable from the Assassin's Creed cards in Modern, and who gives a fuck about what's relevant in Commander? That was a better system, I think. But when you directly infuse every single card into standard, I mean, it's harder.
I mostly don't play standard. I prefer it all being standard sets. I would kind of rather there weren't another straight to Modern set. I hope there isn't an MH4. I think MH3 was a mistake. MH1 had a lot of mistakes in it. MH2
had a great deal of mistakes.
Well, it had maybe some mistakes in it, but maybe did some good things for the format in the specific context of fire design, the fire design era they were coming out of, and in part helping to make Modern more interactive at the rate that it needed to be to slow it down a little bit and check some of the broken combo stuff that was going on. But I prefer cards like Quarry Steel Cutter coming through standard sets, but they're obviously inappropriate for standard.
But like in the way that they're going with standard, it doesn't have to be that way. I don't know. Like in this case, Quarry Steel Cutter probably should have gone. Like as much as I defend the card and I hate the alchemized bullshit so that you can't play it in any other format except for Pioneer, which I don't really want to play.
I kind of, yeah, I mean, I haven't played Pioneer in a while, but honestly, current standard set design is almost perfect for Pioneer, and they don't support. That is another thing that is just not interlocking in a way that makes sense with their other design decisions. That if, we said, you know what, standard was a mistake, and what we used to call Pioneer is now standard. We no longer have a rotating format. Current standard set design would be great. It would be...
They'd probably have to ban Beanstalk at some point. It probably should be banned now, but...
I don't know what would happen in the format when there were more eyes on it. I'm sure some things would. It would churn more than it is churning now. But cards like Beans, Fable, Quarry Steel Cutter, Vivi, like these cards are all basically an appropriate power level for Pioneer. There are also a lot of cards that get printed into standard that never really do anything in standard because they need to reach a critical mass of synergy to be interesting. Saw Nashi Seeker in the Dark in a Rafine pile that did well in Pioneer a while back. That card's not playable in standard.
I was trying a while back. I only like one or two of in my Rats deck back before they banned, or well, not banned, but rotated my boy Karanomics. But I'm unhinged.
There's a Humans deck in Pioneer, a Humans combo deck built around Relic of Legends and the 1 mana and web guy.
Yeah, I've seen that. There's a possible way to do it in standard, but it's not
that card
good.
Is maybe okay in standard if any sort of fair white deck ever becomes good enough. Taxing at least does something to combo decks sometimes, just maybe not the ones that currently are popular in the format because they all, outside of VV, rely on resolving a 4-mana creature spell. I guess if they put Omniscience into play, if a card like Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, or maybe Arachne could put sand in the gears somewhat, but only if you pick exactly the right thing. Circling back, I like that these cards come through standard, but if they're going to be in standard, they're going to be in standard for this long, then the specified every 3-month BNR windows are not going to be enough.
You need them every month.
You need them at least every month to do as needed bans, and you need to be a little more decisive about it because otherwise the format just languishes for a while. Maybe from WotC's perspective, a format being bad for 3 months is not the end of the world. It is a bigger deal than it used to be because of the media environment it now happens in. More games are played on Arena in the first day of a new set release of standard than were played in like weeks or months before Arena. There is just a huge volume of games being played. There's a huge volume of content that people listen to, unlike, say, this podcast, of people trying to play with the new cards or in the format, and, it requires a more agile response. And so they either need to go back to as-needed BNRs, or they need to abandon ship on the Foundations era and say that standard is going to rotate much more often, and that might not even work. These two things together do not work. There is a version where you get rid of one of them, probably the scheduled BNRs, and I used to think that standard was a good format for scheduled BNRs because it's like, does it really get solved that fast? It mostly changes a lot anyway. Is it really that broken that often? And the answer is yes.
Back-to-back sets, they had emergency bannings. I mean, it's a problem.
I didn't think that standard would be like Modern or Legacy, where I thought they mostly could test for it and things would be a little broken, but not like the bottom would fall out of everything, like Cascade Valky or Nadu or Vexing Bauble Sowing Mica Spawn in Legacy or Psychic Frog. I didn't think there would be like a huge Sakili Cat level surprise in standard that a scheduled BNR schedule couldn't deal with, but with how big standard is, that's not really the case.
And with it being 3 years, when there are these cards that aren't going to get banned but are super irritating to play against, like in an Eternal format, you're signing up for that kind of thing. But in standard, it's like, okay, they print Screaming Nemesis, now it's a problem for 3 years. They print, Enduring Curiosity, a problem for 3 years. They're not going to ban these cards. I mean, they might, but they don't seem to want to. So so I don't think that they're going to. So, like, but they're still super irritating for everyone playing with them.
I could see a world where they ban 7 cards to look busy on November 10th.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, if they do, hopefully it's Kona Omniscience, Screaming Nemesis, Enduring Curiosity, VV, Cauldron, Propsidetic Memory. But I don't know, was that 7? I don't know.
That was 7. My time in math grad school has largely destroyed my ability to count, but I used my fingers, and I got to 7 there.
There wasn't even a black card on the list. Like, mid-range is dead. Like, they don't need to ban any black cards. They're all fair.
Print Crucius into standard and paper. Figure out an alternative to C and just do it. No, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that standard will not be fixed with bans alone. You also need to print mid-range threats, good kill spells at instant speed that cost 1 mana for both white and black.
So Heartless Act is coming with Avatar.
That's pretty good.
That's a real kill spell. It's not great against VV either. The VV deck either, though. That deck is so covered in 1/1 counters.
Removing 3, they're going to add more than 3 every single turn. So
removing 3 is only good if it is specifically a 0/0 with 3 1/1 counters on it. It is a classic Doomblade design where you put it in the set where it's kind of bad and limited, or it's good because it's a Doomblade, but it's bad in the sense that, like, it's go for the throat in Brothers War, and a lot of creatures are artifacts, so it misses stuff. And that's good limited design, but if there is still a Profs deck, then Heartless Act might not be any better than Shoot the Sheriff. It's also pretty bad against Ouroborid, because you have a very small window to kill Ouroborid with Heartless Act, so that's a problem. There definitely needs to be a better Doomblade, more on the level of Go for the Throat. There needs to be better 1-mana interaction, because, you know, again, it is like 2015 Modern. It is 2 ships passing in the night, and then sideboard games defined around very specific, ultra-targeted answers at what the opponent is doing, which puts huge pressure on your sideboarding and huge pressure on, like, what you can actually get away with in deck construction.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think Heartless Act is enough, to be honest. It may be a start, but yeah, while we live under an Ouroborid / Propsidetic world,
regime,
it's sort of hard to ever see a world where Heartless Act can be the answer. And maybe Go for the Throat would be good enough. There aren't really any artifacts that are super prominent creature-wise that you would be afraid of not being able to kill. But
as good as Riddler is, like, the VV decks were dominant before they adopted it. Were dominant after rotation, but before they adopted it, they were a little slow-moving in that regard. I think Go for the Throat and Cut Down leaving the format was a big part of what really made the bottom fall out of Standard.
Yeah, it's just you guys hated aggro so much that there's one aggro deck, and it is kind of annoying, but aggro is largely gone, and it's all just combo. Combo is worse than aggro, guys. Like, if you don't think so, you don't think so, but I'd rather just get the turn done with on turn 2. Okay, they beat me. All right, game's over. Queue up for the next one. Then, you know, watch somebody bumble through their fucking combo for 20 minutes and then kill you. You know, you can obviously concede and get to another game quickly too, but I don't know. I don't think that aggro... I'm happy with a balance if you've got a really good combo deck, a really good aggro deck, a really good mid-range deck. Control is kind of just like a joke at this point. You'd have to print better counter spells at lower mana if you want control to be a thing.
I mean, it doesn't help that all the combo decks are...
Cavern of Souls.
Cause their combo to happen by casting something off Cavern of Souls if they want to. Control could be playing a mix of answers, theoretically, if the answers were good enough, but they're not, so...
Yeah, and, you know, Beans should have gone. I am fine with it, but it did kind of kill that Tolarian Terror deck, which was kind of like the only sort of mid-range deck that would maybe still be around. But yeah, I don't...
There's Dimir. Dimir hasn't been great.
It's kind of an aggro deck still, though. Like, it is a mid-range deck, but it's pretty fast.
I guess
you can win on turn 4 with that deck.
You know, it's only mid-range if it comes from the Jund region of Alara. Otherwise, it's just sparkling tempo. But Dimir is more of a tempo deck.
And there's a blue-green tempo deck, too. Like, there's some tempo versus aggro, I guess. Yeah.
Dimir is a mid-range deck in that it does do do beatdown assessment and does pivot into being the control deck against red, but it still is trying to navigate to a space where it can just stick a Kaido or a Curiosity and bury them in cards.
Right, yeah.
Which is sort of what a control deck would try to do. It's a little bit of a mid-range deck in that it does do that thing, and so is the Simic deck, kind of. Simic deck's really just an aggro deck that happens to be a little bigger.
Right, and it can beat red by tossing down an Ouroboros and blocking for a few turns until you have a lethal swing.
Unless there's a Screaming Nemesis coming in, maybe. They're really low.
Blue's pretty good at dealing with
true.
that. You can bounce it, you can
having access
nowhere
to
to
bounce
scream
spells.
it. Yeah, blue is fine against Screaming Nemesis. It's really just red decks that aren't
green.
trying to be aggro decks, that struggle against Nemesis. Nemesis can always be annoying. The life gain deck, I guess, also capable of winning on turn 4, though. So, like, you can call it a mid-range tempo deck, whatever you want. It still wins on turn 4.
I agree that there isn't a mid-range deck. I guess I would define mid-range around the classic article question, who's the beatdown, and having to make a lot of beatdown assessment decisions a lot of the time that aren't always obvious. I would say that the Dimir deck is more of a tempo deck in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of using hyperbolic language when I say that every deck is a combo deck, or, like, it's not every single deck, okay? People play some other decks in the format, but I also don't like life gain. Sue me. I think that's a horrible thing, and, like, thank God for Screaming Nemesis. Don't ban it. No, I'm just kidding. But, it's just, like, life gain is super annoying. The tempo decks are fine. I honestly don't mind playing against the tempo. Like, that's sort of more of, like, okay, we actually have some magic happening when people play tempo. But those decks are largely not tournament playable with
Someone
the
top
current
8 the
stuff.
RC with the Simic one.
No, that's cool. I didn't see it, but
I think it was like 4 VVs, 2 mono red variants, 1 of the Simic deck, and 1 of something else. I could be wrong. I might pull it up and put it on the slide later.
yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what one that I didn't look too deeply into that Baltimore results. I did look up the ley line list, I guess, but I don't know.
Be keeping the Poison Dart Frog in your sideboard?
I might get a Poison Dart Frog in my sideboard for solidarity. Although that guy apparently had ley line in like all of his starting hands since the top 8 started. So who knows? No, he's probably not cheating, but
I mean, sometimes
you get lucky.
But sometimes you do just run hot. Sometimes it is just your day.
Sometimes your Poison Dart Frog mascot brings you the W. Your Gigantha of the Wellspring Poison Dart Frog
has been recognized and given you the privileges of God's special favorite, where now Leyline of Resonance will be the 5th card off the top of your library instead of the 8th.
5th is fine. 5th works. But yeah, I don't know. It's irritating. I think that a lot of formats are kind of in disarray at the moment, and they need to do more. They weren't blaming us. I don't think they are aware of us. I don't think we even said anything that negative about Spider-Man in any of our stuff.
I mean, we pointed to some cards that we thought might be cool and constructed. I think my opinion of Spider-Man got worse after it came out. I love Madness. I really do. I was excited to like Mayhem, and then it's like, oh, all the Mayhem payoffs are legendary. So, like, how are we doing this? Outside of the meme combo decks that actively care about legend ruling Carnage while bringing back a clone, what are we actually doing here? But, I tried the limited format. It was not very good. I saw some of how the cards worked in practice and was less enthusiastic about them after that than, when I was hoping that some of them would be good and interesting before they came out.
I mean, like, Vero and Jackal are the only 2 that are played in
But you shouldn't
standard,
listen
really.
to Jeremy Wizard. You should listen to him because you should listen to this podcast, but you shouldn't listen to him about how no one listens to us. Just pretend it's like anything else you do and don't look at the data at all. And we are very important. You should invite us to early access.
Yeah, invite us to early access, please. But yeah, we're a big deal, okay? So don't you forget it. But anyway, yeah, I hope that Standard gets better, but I don't see November 10th fixing the problems, even if they ban 15 cards, even if they, I don't know, whatever, you know, it's like we don't have to play Standard anymore. We have Powered Arena Cube. So I guess that's the solution. Anything else to add before we wrap this one?
I am cautiously optimistic for both Avatar and Lorwyn as sets.
Please print a 1-mana Changeling in Lorwyn, please. Just do it.
Yes, I co-sign this message. You know, I will certainly try Standard when these new sets come out. I'll try their limited environments. I expect limited will be better than it has been.
Like, pick 2 is not what it's about. That's like something you do with your friends, not like what a format has to do. And I guess we'll be back to it in Turtles, but...
I kind of liked... So I only did one pick 2 Foundations draft when it was the Midweek Magic, and you can't learn anything from Midweek Magic because the standard of competition is so low compared to the ladder. You can kind of win with garbage and
not learn anything about the format.
But it did feel like Foundations, which was kind of a bad draft set and kind of a low synergy draft set, pick 2 allowed me to build a more coherent deck than I felt like I was usually able to in pick 1. And so I was optimistic for pick 2 in Spider-Man for that reason, but it just exacerbated all the other problems of it being kind of a small, really unbalanced, not very deep or interesting set because you just get the same deck every time.
Yeah, that is irritating. I didn't actually do any of the drafting in Spider-Man, but I probably won't for Turtles either. I don't really want to do pick 2. It seems like kind of a drain. As a free-to-play player, like it is sort of a drain on your resources because like you can just lose. You can just like have a bad draft and lose all of your games, and that's possible in any situation, but it just seems like kind of irritating in the pick 2 where you keep having to buy in.
You know, and I will also say that it's not impossible to think that we will get some better interaction across those 2 sets and it will make Standard good again for a while. I think that the natural state of Standard is not going to be as good until they make some structural changes, but there will be pockets of Standard being good. There will be interesting Magic to play somewhere. You know,
I still play it even when the game's bad, okay? Like, I'm playing right now.
I'm not about to quit Magic or anything. I don't think, like some people seem, that this is just completely abandoning Magic as a game and trying to make it a collector's product for scalpers. I don't think that they're trying to abandon 60-card formats completely in favor of Commander even, really. But
I mean, for Commander, they can just print a couple of bad 6-drops into the format that change things for them, and that's fine, you know? Like, they also have a million Commander products all the time. Like, I guess they've been doing a few less as they've I think this Standard thing, but
like, to the extent that Commander influences Standard or like influences design of cards that go into other formats outside of, well, like Legacy sort of more so because they get more of the straight to Commander product, but you know, cards that are very transparently designed with a singleton format in mind, like the One Ring, cards that are designed with 4-player gameplay in mind, initiative. The reason that they moved away from the original version of Nadu is very clearly that they did not want that effect in a 4-player format out of the command zone because they printed a non-legendary version of it into Standard forever. They were specifically concerned about Commander. Things that expect you to have a 40-point life total. Initiative, again, I think you could say this about Pyrogoyf a little bit, although Pyrogoyf's cool. I like him.
Well, he's only allowed to exist in degenerate places, so...
I like him when he's not on the other side of the table from me. How about that? But
that's how I feel about Screaming Nemesis. So
I still really like Magic. I think the people designing Magic really like it and are doing a lot of things really well. And Standard will probably be good again at times, and there will be formats that are good at times. But I think there are structural issues that make it more likely that Standard will be bad more often. And I think that is the too long didn't read of this pod for me.
Let Gavin design more sets so we can get some cool popper cards.
Isn't Vivi his fault?
Yeah, that's fine. We're not going to talk about that. I mean, VV is just one little problem, okay? And I think that VV, like, as a design mistake, it's more of Wizards' fault for not just banning it.
Yeah, it is an after-the-fact format curation. I agree. That was just the thesis that I
presented,
that Corey Steelcutter and VV are good design. VV, I think, is a worse design.
It should probably tap, yeah.
I think Corey Steelcutter is a really good design that is a little too much for standard.
If it didn't have trample, maybe it wouldn't.
Just come through a standard set, be broken for a month, and then go away. And,
yeah. If it didn't have trample, maybe that would be standard fine. Who knows? Like, there's quite a few cards that make little dudes.
It's a better card for Pioneer and Modern, I think, with the trample. I
for
think
sure.
You could make an argument for that it is a more appropriate power level for older formats, Pioneer, Modern, Historic, Legacy, as it is, and it's better for those to come through standard sets. They just need to have their time and then go, and their time needs to be shorter than 3 months because of the Arena era and because of, structural things about 3-year standard.
Hard agree. Yeah. In conclusion, standard is horrible, and hopefully they fix it. And it's not going to be a quick fix. They can't just do a couple bans and make things better, to be honest. So you guys let us know what cards should be banned. What should they print into standard? Let us know why Arcbound Ravager and Mox Opal should be printed into standard at Uncommon. Dark Ritual. Those are all fine. Anyway,
they used to think that Dark Ritual was such a core part of Black's identity that it should just be in standard forever, and they would have to balance 3-drops that could be cast for black mana around it. And
remember when everyone was afraid of Llanowar Elves coming into standard, being like, the 3-drops are going to be too powerful? Oh, okay, yeah. Remember how that didn't happen? All right, anyway. Print Dark Ritual, ban Llanowar Elves in conclusion. Anyway, we've gone off the rails.
This will solve all the problems. Like, comment, subscribe if you agree or if you disagree.